Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back your lovely faces to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about things you may not have known about in the history of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Before we get into the video, I'd like to shout out to today's video sponsor, Dice Dreams. It's a free to download and free to play game that is available on both Android and iOS devices. I've been playing this game now for a few months and I absolutely love it. There are so many things that can make this game fun for everyone. If you're into tournaments or like seeing who is better out of your friends, you can challenge them. Personally, my favourite feature though is that you can attack any player. Most times when I boot it up, my kingdom has been destroyed and coins have been taken. What's better than having a chance to get those coins back and to destroy the player's kingdom who made yours into the rubble that you saw when you first entered the game? The tournament aspect of the game is quite unique as well, in that anyone can enter and they can have the ability to become the biggest kingdom in all of Dice Dreams. One great aspect for all newcomers as well is the Newcomer Award. Anyone who clicks on the link below will get 200 rolls and 1 million coins on their third day of playing. With this game as well, you can play it anywhere you want. If you want to relax and just chill out, pull out your phone, play the game, you can do it practically anywhere, which is the beauty of this game. So what are you waiting for? Dice Games is available via the Apple Store and Google Play Store. Download the game, boot it up, and join me in the quest to become the biggest kingdom ever. 8 things you may or may not know about the history of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. In 2005, we were introduced to Tim Burton's version of the Roald Dahl classic, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This version used the correct title, unlike the first adaptation, which was released in 1971, with Gene Wilder playing the flamboyant chocolate maker Willy Wonka. Today we're going to look at a mixture of facts about the original book and both versions of the movie. Let's take a closer look. 8. The original book was banned in parts of the world. When Roald Dahl wrote the original manuscript for Charlie, it had many disturbing chapters and characters. The publisher had many questions for Dahl in regards to certain names, chapters, and also the fate of the children. Some of the lost chapters have been made available online after being found among Roald Dahl's papers. One of these, that a child was named Herpes. The main cause for the book to be banned, though, was overlooked when it was first put on sale. The Oompa Loompas weren't originally in the book, but they were in fact African pygmies. Working for Cocoa Beans, sing songs which sounded like war chants and allowed themselves to be experimented on in the factory. Dahl is quoted in 1988, "I created a group of little fantasy creatures. I saw them as charming creatures, whereas the white kids in the book were most unpleasant. It didn't occur to me that my depiction of the Oompa Loompas was racist, but it did occur to the NAACP and others. After listening to the criticisms, I found myself sympathising with them, which is why I revised the book." The book was re-released in 1973, 2 years after the 1971 movie with Gene Wilder. It was mostly to do with the movie that the book was revised. As people who had never read the book but saw the movie, they wanted to read the original book. Some of those people were shocked when they read the book and found that quite a few differences. 7. The chocolate and candy are all real. Chocolate and candy is an essential part of Dahl's classic story. The 2005 movie needed real chocolate for quite a few scenes, to which Nestle, the company behind American bars such as Butterfingers and UK favourites such as Rolos, Toffee Crisps and Kit Kats, came through as the saviours for the production. They gave over 1,800 bars of real chocolate and over 100,000 fake plastic bars for the montage scene of the bars being made. In another instance of what was real on screen for the 2005 movie was the chocolate river. To make the river look real and tasty at the same time, 50,000 gallons of a mixture consisting of liquid chocolate, thickening agents and food colourings were used. It took the team months to find the correct thickness for the river and took 5 full days to fill the entire river on the soundstage. In the end, the grand total for the waterfall and the river was a staggering 244,993 gallons, or 927,403 litres. That's a lot of liquid. The lollipops hanging from the trees, the giant pink sugar canes, and the giant humbugs were all real candy. For the scenes where the actors had to stuff their faces with the candy and chocolate made them become very nauseous, to which a handful of them couldn't film anymore due to the upset stomachs they had. Another fun fact regarding the chocolate room, this time from the 1971 version, is the reaction on the children's faces when they enter. This was their first time seeing the set, and their genuine surprised faces were caught on film. Surprised faces were caught on film. As we previously mentioned about the chocolate river for Burton's movie, the river in 1971 was made of chocolate water and cream. It spoiled very quickly and left a lingering horrid smell, which was still there after filming had finished. 6. Real squirrels were trained for the 2005 movie. During the tour of the chocolate factory, Wonka shows off various rooms, all with their own speciality to the guests. We've seen the chocolate room, the whipped cream room where a cow is being whipped, the clotted coffee and hair cream rooms, to which Wonka advises the hair cream is used to moisturise the hair. One of the rooms they end up in is the nut sorting room. Filled with over 40 squirrels, Burton wanted them to be real. The animals were trained every day for 10 weeks before filming commenced. They were trained from when they were newborns, fed by bottles to form relationships with the human trainers. They were then taught how to sit upon the blue stools, tap and to open the walnut, and then deposit it onto the belt. When asked about this, Burton replied with, "Ultimately, the scene was supplemented by CGI and animatronics, but for the close-ups and the main action, they're the real thing." 5. Clothing choices. Both adaptations of the book have Willy Wonka in colourful and out-there clothing. From Gene Wilder's top hat to Depp's, both actors had an input into what their character wore. Gene Wilder had extensive input into his character's wardrobe, that after he saw early sketches of Wonka's costume, he wrote a letter to the director with notes attached. These notes were very detailed, pointing to the jacket pockets, pants, and shoes. The biggest note attached was in regards to the famous top hat, which read, "The hat is terrific, but make it 2 inches shorter would make it more special. Also, a light blue felt hat band to match with the same light blue fluffy bow tie shows a man who knows how to compliment his blue eyes." Depp, on the other hand, had even more quirkiness to add to his costume. When he was going through wardrobe, his idea was to have the majority of Wonka's clothing resemble shock rocker and his friend Marilyn Manson, more specifically Manson's album The Golden Age of Grotesque. 4. Would-be Wonkas. The role of Willy Wonka had a huge star appeal to not just the 2005 version, but also the original 1971 movie, which had a whole host of stars for the time vying for the role. Gene Wilder beat out a whole host of famous faces from his era for the role. Fred Astaire was asked, Peter Sellers personally called Roald Dahl asking him for the part, even each member of Monty Python expressed interest in the role, but were ultimately turned down as they weren't established enough outside of the United Kingdom. For Roald Dahl's personal choice, he pushed for his friend, British comedian Spike Milligan for the role. Gene Wilder accepted the part on one condition, that he is allowed to be introduced walking with a cane, a limp, and is allowed to do a forward somersault when meeting everyone. For the 2005 version, the amount of names that were considered and even asked is huge. For a quick rundown, we have Jim Carrey, Rowan Atkinson, Nicolas Cage, The Rock, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, Ben Stiller, and even Christopher Walken. The biggest surprise was that John Cleese, who was also in consideration, despite being turned down for the role back in the 70s for not being a big enough star. However, the role went to Johnny Depp, who has a very long and personal history with Tim Burton. This made it their 5th film together in 15 years. In regards to Roald Dahl's estate and family, they wanted Dustin Hoffman for Wonka and Christopher Lloyd as Grandpa Joe. Depp was so keen to play Wonka that he accepted the movie without reading the screenplay. He went in totally blind, as he didn't want to compare the role to Wilder's iconic performance. 3. The Trouble with Charlie. Charlie Bucket is the main character in the book and both adaptations. However, when Roald Dahl first wrote the book, Charlie was a little black boy, to which Dahl thought was great, as at the time not many protagonists were black. His agent read the first draft and immediately asked for the race of the child to be changed. According to Roald Dahl's biographer, Donald Sturrock, she thought the black character wouldn't appeal to readers, and that people would simply wonder why he was black. This made Dahl unhappy, but he caved to the pressure being made to him and made the switch. If Dahl had kept the original, the book would have been revolutionary by having a black child be the protagonist in a very successful book. It's a shame when you see what people actually used to think like. 2. The Oompa Loompas. As previously mentioned, the Oompa Loompas were originally depicted as African pygmies, but after this was found to be racist and was challenged in the 1971 version, Roald Dahl made the change in the book in a second edition release. In 1971, the 10 Oompa Loompas were cast from British and Turkish circuses. Out of the 10, 9 were men and 1 was a woman. According to actor Paris Femin, who played Mike TV, they frequently were drunk by the end of filming. Once they gathered the entire cast's shoes from the hotel they were staying in, tied all the laces together, and left them in a giant pile to be discovered the following morning. Now, comparing that to the 2005 version, where there was only one actor playing the cast of Oompa Loompas. Deep Roy, who stands 4'4", is an actor and stuntman who got his film debut in the Peter Sellers movie The Pink Panther Strikes Again. He then went on to portray Jedi Master Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory would mark his third time working with Burton, as he previously worked on Planet of the Apes and Big Fish. In 2005, he would star in 2 of Burton's movies, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Corpse Bride. For his role as the Oompa Loompa, when Roy went for the audition, he had no idea how many characters he was going to be playing. On screen, there are 165 Oompa Loompas, to which Roy would film a single scene dozens of times. He would repeat the same movements and move in different directions, to which then all of his filmed scenes would be digitally stitched together. Each performance for the Oompa Loompas are different. For this, Roy was paid a cool $1 million for his role. 1. Both movies had troubled productions with the scripts. When the rights to the book were being bought, Roald Dahl made sure to put into the deal that he writes the screenplay. At this time in history, Dahl had 2 major hits on his hands for which he wrote the scripts for. The James Bond movie You Only Live Twice and the musical fantasy movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So when David L. Wolper convinced Quaker Oats Company to buy the rights, Dahl came as a package. However, due to creative differences, Dahl left the production without even delivering a completed screenplay. All that was given to the producers was an outline pointing to sections of the book. This was when Wolper called in David Seltzer, who wrote the entire screenplay. Sadly, Seltzer was uncredited on the movie, but he would go on to write the classic horror movie The Omen. Due to going uncredited on this movie, Wolper promised Seltzer that he would produce his next movie. The reason for Seltzer to be uncredited was to maintain credibility by keeping Roald Dahl's name attached to the production. Due to how much hate Roald Dahl had for the 1971 version, he never sold the rights to the sequel or even to any remakes of Chocolate Factory. It wasn't until a year after his death that talks were made between his estate and Warner Brothers, who were hoping to produce another version of the book. It didn't become finalised until 7 years later, with Roald Dahl's widow Felicity and his daughter Lucy, who received total artistic control and final privilege on actors, directors and writers. In 1999, screenwriter Scott Frank was hired to write the screenplay, after he approached Warner Brothers for the task. He wanted the job as he was a huge fan of the book, but he also wanted a movie that his children could enjoy, as he just came off an Oscar nomination for the adult movie Out of Sight, starring Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney. Between 1999 and 2001, Scott Frank wrote 2 drafts of the script, which stuck very close to the source material. In February 2000, Gary Ross signed on to direct. Ross worked with Frank on the drafts very closely, but both parties left the project in September of 2001. Both Warner Brothers and the Dahl estate wanted Frank to stay on as his script was met with acclaim, but he faced scheduling and contractual obligations with the Tom Cruise sci-fi flick Minority Report and his directorial debut The Lookout. Between the end of 2001 and May of 2003, 4 writers and directors were touted, but come May of 2003, the Dahl estate gave enthusiastic approval of Tim Burton coming onto the project. Burton compared the project's long development to his earlier blockbuster, Batman, with him saying, "Scott Frank's version was the best, probably the clearest and the most interesting, but they had abandoned that." Roald Dahl's widow commented that Burton was the first and only director the estate was happy with. He had previously produced another Dahl adaptation in James and the Giant Peach in '96. Pamela Petler, who worked with Burton on Corpse Bride, was hired to do a rewrite of a draft by Gwyn Lurie. However, in December 2003, Burton hired Big Fish screenwriter John August. August did a page 1 rewrite, completely scrapping everything that came beforehand. August has said of the screenwriting process, "I literally went through the book with a highlighter, and I would save even like little bits of scene description as much as I could, just so it would be more as a Roald Dahl as possible." The screenplay took August 3.5 weeks to write. There we have it, folks. Some great facts regarding Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell for future updates, and I'll see each and every one of you soon.